Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after a controversial fight in Texas.
Jake Paul has finally been arrested, and honestly, it's about time karma stepped in. Do you think he could keep scamming people without consequences? This time, Jake, you've messed with the wrong crowd. Boxing fans aren't letting you off easy.
The whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us,
These aren't your TikTok followers. They'll strip you down to your last ego boost and leave you swearing off scams for life. And let's be clear, the scripted boxing circus isn't his only crime against humanity. Jake's track record is a laundry list of frauds, from fake fights to his shady schemes, all designed to exploit his so-called influence for maximum profit. But the tables have turned, and all those he's wronged are finally getting your sweet moment of justice. Jake Paul, more like Joke Paul this time. The joke's on him, and oh, it's delicious.
28-year-old kid who, used to be a YouTuber, and he's worked hard to learn boxing. He really has. He's come along. But really, he's still not of that level.
Jake Paul's journey to fame began long before his infamous moments. Back in his Vine days, he wasn't just annoying, he was toxic. Allegations of bullying, blackmail, and even police reports tied him to severe cyberbullying, leading to suicide attempts. In 2017, he launched Team 10, a so-called YouTube collective that quickly became a nightmare. It wasn't a creative hub, but a dystopian environment where phones were tapped, members' lives controlled, and everything felt like a cult. On top of that, the merchandise was a joke, making his audacity even more ridiculous.
like I said, I don't like the fact that they keep messing with that mouthpiece.
Left hook, triple left hook by Paul.
Mike's
He
hurt.
wobbled
Mike is
Tyson.
hurt.
Mike's hurt.
The drama didn't stop there. Remember the mansion? The one where neighbors called the police 47 times for everything from explosions to arson? One girl even got injured during one of Jake's reckless stunts. But Jake handled it the only way he knows, throwing money at the problem. No apology, just hush cash. Classic Jake. While causing chaos in the neighborhood, he was also inflating his views with bots, with up to 40% of his views being fake. This made his success as authentic as his boxing career, not at all.
At the end of the day, Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich. But I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
Why stop at botting views when you can scam kids out of their allowances? Enter the financial freedom movement, Jake's pandemic-era cash grab. For a few $100, he promised kids they'd become millionaires without ever leaving their rooms. What they actually got were repackaged internet guides and plagiarized tips from real business coaches, while Jake walked away $2 million richer in just 3 months. It's honestly impressive how quickly he can scam people. If scamming were a sport, maybe he'd actually deserve a title belt. And then came the crypto scams. Jake's love for jump tokens and pump and dump schemes were his bread and butter, leaving fans broke while he pocketed millions.
He's not as dumb as you guys probably think he is, but he's also not as smart as he thinks he is. So even though Jake Paul is going to try to hide his various crypto accounts,
The Doink token scandal was another low point for Jake. He secretly owned 100% of the tokens, hyped them up to his fans, and then dumped them, walking away with $10 million while his followers were left holding the bag. And let's not forget his NFT disaster, a $4 million cash grab that vanished faster than Jake's fan base when the FBI started investigating. Then came Jake Paul in boxing. He didn't step into the ring for glory or dignity. It was just another chapter in his long, sordid career of con artistry. Let's start with his underground matches in Los Angeles. These weren't real fights, they were bare-knuckle laundering operations. Bets soared up to $1 million per match, turning the ring into a personal casino of chaos. 5 fighters walked away with injuries so severe they probably forgot how to walk, and one unlucky soul straight up disappeared. This isn't a boxing legacy, it's a crime documentary in the making.
at the end of the day, Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich. But I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
Why stop at underground fights when you can rig official ones? Enter the Anas Gibb fight in 2020, as fake as Jake's humble beginnings. Rumor has it, Gibb pocketed a sweet $500,000 bonus to take a dive in the first round, because who needs talent when you've got offshore accounts buzzing louder than a Vegas slot machine? Speaking of which, millions of dollars were funneled out before the fight even ended. But if that wasn't enough to make you gag, 2021 brought the Ben Askren debacle. $30 million in fake bets flooded the market, and Askren, a man, folded to a punch so weak it would knock over a paper bag. Bribery whispers turned into full-blown screams, but Jake kept strutting, confident his bank account could outpunch any accusation.
Jake Paul got paid 39.9 Ethereum for the Sacred Devils promotional scam, which you can see right here. It's worth $139,000, which puts him on the board, which later linked up with a huge ring of NFT scammers we busted, actually.
Then there are Jake's extracurriculars, a kind involving private planes and shady pit stops in cartel territory. Yeah, you heard me right. Cartel connections. His so-called training camps in Mexico conveniently included detours to areas notorious for banned substances. Coincidence? Sure, if you believe in fairy tales. Let's not forget the 3 convicted drug smugglers on his team either. His real training regime, evading the law while pretending to box. Honestly, his career should be less about fitness and more about how to fit as many scams as possible into a lifetime. Now let's talk about the Peace Tea resistance, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. A leaked script exposed the entire fraud for what it was, a clown show disguised as a fight.
When you stayed home and you turned on Netflix that night, we were like, holy I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Tyson was told to pull his punches moving slower than a tortoise stuck in quicksand, all to make Jake look half decent. This is the same Tyson who once knocked out opponents in mere seconds, but in the ring, he looked like he'd forgotten what sport he was playing. It was embarrassing, a masterclass in mediocrity orchestrated to boost Jake's delusional dream of being a alleged boxer. The leaked script was uglier than Jake's boxing form. Everything was choreographed to make Jake look like a prodigy. But this wasn't boxing, it was theater, and not even good theater at that. And the fallout? Oh, it's glorious. Both Jake and Tyson are now tangled in lawsuits with the International Boxing Association breathing down their necks. Tyson, who cashed in a measly $20 million, is accused of throwing the fight to shield Jake's fragile ego. Meanwhile, Netflix, which streamed this disaster, is drowning a class action lawsuit. Fans who shelled out their hard-earned cash for what was supposed to be a historic match were treated to buffering issues, crashes, and a fight so low quality, it practically begged to be pirated. And the fans? They want their money back. Can you blame them?
Paul just got Netflix sued. People got a big problem with this stream cut now.
The internet had a field day, of course. Hardcore boxing fans who expected a clash of titans were instead served a lukewarm pantomime dubbed the world's most expensive reality show. Memes flooded social media, with Tyson mocked for searching for his lost keys mid-fight and Jake roasted for posing instead of defending. If turning a sport into a comedy act were an Olympic event, Jake would take home all the gold. But Jake wasn't content with just ruining boxing. He had to bankrupt fans too. Allegedly, his scams and staged fights have cost fans over $200 million. And when the FBI came knocking, they uncovered treasures that made things worse. Hard drives loaded with evidence of shady transactions worth $50 million, offshore money laundering schemes, and doping scandals that could keep Netflix stocked with documentaries for years. Jake Paul isn't just a fraud, he's a walking, talking crime syndicate, dragging anyone dumb enough to work with him into his swirling vortex of deceit.
Is publicly tagged on OpenSea as the problem child, which is one of Jake's favorite names for himself. So this is kind of promising, right? You've got this wallet receiving $200,000 in SafeMoon, and then it sending that money over to something called the problem child on OpenSea.
And let's not forget how Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, willingly stepped into Jake's circus and got himself branded as a co-conspirator in the biggest scam boxing has ever seen. His once pristine legacy now lies in tatters. Smudged by his association with Jake Paul, the king of influencer fraud. Together, they've proven that influencer boxing isn't just a joke, it's a disease, and Jake Paul is the virus spreading it. But somehow, through all of this, people still call him boxing prodigy, a prodigy of what exactly fraud, manipulation, exploitation. Jake Paul isn't an ER. He's a scam artist who happened to find an audience gullible enough to believe his lies. Every fight, every deal, every dollar is just another chapter in the book of how to fool the world for fun and profit. So yeah, Jake Paul getting arrested isn't just justice, it's karma. And honestly, it's been a long time coming. If there's any silver lining to this mess, it's that maybe, just maybe, people will finally see him for what he truly is, a fraudster in gloves, nothing more.